How's the Detroit Sports Podcast going?
This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Hey everybody, this is Freddie Cohen of ESPN Radio. When I'm not talking about breaking news or breaking news on ESPN Radio, I'm always a fan and listen to the Detroit Sports Podcast, and so should you.
You guys keep up the good work, man. Podcasts are the way of the future.
Cousin Adam, if you search the internet, it seems all is right in the world. Michigan was able to defeat Michigan State, and it just feels like when you evaluate everybody's response, it's kind of like a kind of moment. Feels like everything's right in the world. Wolverine fans are all cozy. And the biggest thing that I say is the takeaway from this contest is Michigan puffed out their chest, and in all forms of social media, their head coach, on the field, off the field, Michigan kind of said, look, here we are back, you guys are little brothers. Michigan State, look, you had your run, but it's no more. It's time for us to regain our confidence, regain our spot atop the world of college football, and I kind of liked it. I'm not going to lie. I feel like, you know what, from the beginning of the game until now, the time of this recording, Michigan has been all talk, all swagger, and when you win a football game, you have every right to do it.
It's so weird hearing you talk like this. Like, who are you and what did you do with my cousin?
No, I'm not talking about...
Where's he at?
I'm not.
Are you holding him ransom? Are you an android? Who are you?
I'm not talking about my feelings about what's going on. What I'm talking about is what I observed. Michigan's been talking. They've been talking a lot of shit. Jim Harbaugh, post-game, called Michigan State Bush League, and he now has the ability with a team that has a great defense and his quarterback, a guy that can run his offense, a couple playmakers. I feel like he's just been waiting, kind of that guy that's been bullied all the time, just kind of been taking shots, waiting for his opportunity, and bam, when it happened, you saw the celebration. I'm not saying how I feel about it. I'm fucking pissed because from the time the game started, and if you follow our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast, I was livid. From the time it happened, from the entire pregame melee and all the issues that happened and the game itself to what happened after the game, the response has been piss poor from the Spartans, and I'm totally upset about what happened because I would not have handled it in any way similar to what Mark Dantonio and the Spartans addressed it. I would not have handled it that way, and we'll talk about what this means.
What would you have done different? Let's go through the game the way it unfolded. How about that? Can we do that?
Exactly.
So what would you have done differently?
Okay, now, everybody's talking about the whole fracas and all the, what happened before the game with Devin Bush and, Lavert Hill and getting, clothesline and things like that. Look, both parties are wrong because Michigan State didn't have to lock, themselves arm in arm and clothesline everybody. They could have stopped, waited, maybe had a couple, discussions and waited, but they didn't. Fine, I'm okay with that. And the Michigan athletes could have moved out of the way, but they didn't. They stood their ground, and so it played out. And so for those that haven't seen the video, millions of people have seen it. Michigan State, the Stormtrooper Spartans kind of walk in, and whether it was late or not, it's not a big deal. But what happened was there's Michigan players there, and so Michigan State decided, look, we're going to just walk right through the field and be damned. If someone's in the way, you're getting hurt. And that's fine. But then what happens is Lavert Hill kind of is now, upset, and you got Devin Bush. He's pissed off, and he goes right out to the middle of the field, and there's a big Spartan S, and he starts, cleating the field. And there's nobody around within like 3 yards of him because the moment that happens, look, if I'm a walk-on, if I'm a star athlete, if I was Lewerke, whoever, whatever my role was on that team, fists would have been flying. You don't come into our house.
You got to protect the house, right?
You got to protect the house. I would have, right away, similar to what happened when, if you guys recall, Terrell Owens did the same kind of nonsense. He walked up to the Dallas Star and he put his hands up and boom, within 4 seconds, you had a Dallas Cowboy come and destroy him. And then he tried to do it again. And so that similar thing should have happened. An MSU administrator, athlete, somebody, hell, even if it was Mark Dantonio, walk right up there and talk to Devin Bush. Get the fuck off our ass. It's not right. It's not appropriate for you to do that. And I believe when that happened, I put right away on our Twitter page, that's the moment Michigan got its swagger back because Devin Bush let out emotion. He got his team riled up. He got himself in the right mindset to play a grueling football game. And Michigan State, what did? They just sat and watched and say, okay, we got the first swing. And then when Devin Bush goes and disrespects your house, you walk away like a bitch? No, absolutely not. From that moment on, I kind of felt like, wow, Michigan came in here with some emotion and they came in here ready to handle business. And so I was obviously very upset and very concerned about how the game was going to play out.
I get it, and I think the moment Devin Bush did that,
game over.
Yeah, he won the game for them.
Yeah, game over.
There was no Michigan State had no rebuttal. They had no rebuttal for Devin Bush tearing up the Spartan helmet at the middle of the field. They had no rebuttal for anything Michigan did on offense. They had no rebuttal for anything Michigan did on defense. There was no rebuttal from Michigan State, and I don't know if it's just Michigan State being beat up, having the wrong schemes, having bad assistant coaches, or maybe it's just they're both on a different level when it comes to talent. Maybe it's all of these things. I'm not really sure what it is. At no point when this game was going on was I nervous. Was I uncomfortable?
Even at 7-7 after the turnover of Sparty special?
No, I wasn't uncomfortable. I was like, wow, this is a really close game. But I was like, what's going on here? Like, why can't Michigan's offense just kind of get out of its own way and get going here? You know? And then they eventually figured it out. But at no point was I like terrified, like, oh my God, Michigan's going to lose this game. There's been seasons, especially under Harbaugh, where Michigan and Michigan State have played, and I've just been like, I don't want to watch this game. I am nervous. I'm upset. My stomach's in a knot. I'm an emotional mess right now. I don't know what to feel. I don't know if I should be angry, sad, upset. I have no idea what I should be. This game's going on. I'm just kind of sitting there. I'm like, this is kind of a boring game. I really wish Michigan would figure it out here. That'd be cool. Can they score some points at some point? And you're right. When they had Sparty special, and what does that tell you about Michigan's defense? You fumble the ball inside your own 10-yard line, right? Michigan State's got to run a special play to put some points on the board. That's how good that defense was the entire day. That defense was almost unstoppable. Almost unstoppable. That play happened, and Lorraine was sitting next to me. That's my wife. And she's like, wow, that was a really good play. She's like, why couldn't Michigan stop that? He was uncovered. And I was like, well, if you watch how the play unfolded, I was like, it's a misdirection to the left, misdirection to the right. And then it's a toss back to the running back who then throws it to Lewerke. So now you've got the defense going left, defense going right. Now you've got them sucked in. I was like, it was the perfect play. Like, that play is designed to happen that exact way. It was perfect, absolutely perfect. But that was the only way Michigan State could score. They had to capitalize on a turnover by Michigan inside their own 5 or 10-yard line, and then they had to run a special quirky play to get it done.
At 7-7, I was like, okay, this is good. And then the rains happen, and you're like, oh boy, could this be a repeat of 2017? Could we have the opportunity where you take Shea Patterson out of the game? Do you have an opportunity to just make it a running game? And then early on, the first couple offensive possessions for both teams kind of was a little bit sloppy. They both turn it over, and you go, okay, maybe it's going to be who wins it in the trenches, and then maybe Michigan State can have a chance. And so obviously, everybody knew that the next big play, the next team to score was going to have an edge. And I even tweeted out, I said, the next team that has a passing play of over 15 yards is going to win the game. And as soon as that, I tweeted that, 3 minutes later, boom, Shea Patterson launches an amazing pass to Donovan Peoples-Jones. He's running down the sidelines, and right then and there, I think everybody knew, damn, game over. And I didn't see an opportunity for Michigan State to come back, especially with the injury to Felton Davis. It just took the wind out of every Spartan supporter's sails, and then you just had to watch Lewerke drop back pass after pass, and he looked like a guy that had never played college football before. And so when it all shook out, to look at it, 94 yards of offense, Brian Lewerke, one of the all-time worst passing performances of all time. Michigan State's offense, you got to give a lot of credit to Michigan's defense. They obviously had a great game plan. Michigan State, they didn't come to the table with the right scheme, the right opportunity. And we got a lot to talk about. The decision to keep Brian Lewerke in that game and even to start him is one that's wrong. But to go back a little bit, a lot of people, when they saw Devin Bush in that video clip, and then they saw the Fox reaction and people's reaction to it, they were upset.
I was upset.
People were upset.
I was upset.
And I totally disagree with that take.
Well, let me tell you why, okay? So I didn't get the complete context of what happened, okay? I just seen the video of him stomping on the S. So I thought it was totally unprovoked. I thought he was just going up there and acting a clown. I didn't understand what was actually taking place and what had actually happened. After seeing what had happened, I was like, all right, cool. You know, like, I wish you wouldn't have did it, but you did it, and I'm okay with it. Let me put it like this. If he'd have did that and they'd have lost that game, I'd be furious. I'd be absolutely furious. But they won that game. And looking at everything in the context that it happened, I get it. You know, I don't necessarily agree with it, but I get it. I don't want to say it's okay because it's a rivalry game, but it's okay because it's a rivalry game. Like, this is the one thing, too, about Michigan and Michigan State. For years, Michigan's always wanted to pretend like Michigan State wasn't a rival. Like, they're just there. They're just a team. They're cute. They're pretty. Yeah, whatever. They'll every now and then they'll bubble up and they'll win one. No, bro. They beat you last 8 out of 10. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're for real. This is a rivalry. That moment, he went and tore up the field. You knew it was a rivalry. That was like the first time a Michigan player or anybody who has any involvement with Michigan essentially came out and was like, yeah, this is for real. This is a real rivalry. We hate them. They hate us. Let's do it.
Exactly. And so when you look at a rivalry, football is a game of emotion. So when everybody said, oh my gosh, it was at that time fear that Michigan State, who has used motivation to kind of help them, people were upset. They were like, don't give Michigan State any opportunity to come back and use that to come against us. And sometimes I could understand why Michigan fans would be a little bit skeptical and a little bit cautious because they don't want to awake a sleeping giant.
Well, how many times has Mark Dantonio done the poker chip or done the chip on the shoulder or, hey, they disrespected us? I mean, I'm almost certain the entire week that they're preparing, he's playing Mike Hart's little brother speech.
The moment that happened, we all said it. Those that watch football, those that are fans, and those that display emotion said the same thing. They said, Michigan got its swagger back. That's the moment, if they carry on in 2018 and actually get to Indy and win and get to the college football playoff, that's the moment. Devin Bush sparked off the new swagger of Michigan, and Jim Harbaugh now has a team that can back it up. After the game's over. Now Jim Harbaugh's chirping, and he's been told what happened. One of the spokesmen for Michigan said, look, our players got clotheslined. There was a situation in which Michigan State was the aggressor, and so he comes out and is like, man, Mark Dantonio's Bush League. And he sparks off.
He said it was Bush League.
Yeah. Well,
and
obviously
he makes reference to Mark Dantonio saying he was 5 yards behind it all, smiling. Yes. And if you look at the video, there's a video of it.
Yeah, it's there.
Mark Dantonio's behind it, smiling. I think Jim Harbaugh. Look, I've been really hard on him, right? I have crushed him when he deserved to be crushed. Yes or no?
Of course.
Fair or not fair? Okay, I've held Jim Harbaugh very accountable. Jim Harbaugh's right in all of this. Mark Dantonio was Bush League. He was Bush League. He was. Honestly, that probably is what pissed me off the most, is watching the video and seeing Mark Dantonio's clown ass behind his team smiling and laughing about this. Like, dude, you are the guy who sits there and talks about how you guys are holier than thou, how you guys have to be up here and Michigan's beneath you, and how you guys are prim and proper and everything is great. And you're going to be a douchebag? You're going to be a douchebag like that? You're going to be behind your guys while they're doing what they're doing? Like, is this what we're talking? Like, what kind of asshat are you?
And now here's where I'm more angry with Mark Dantonio. He hears, obviously, in the press conference after the game, after a tough loss, and he hears, he's answering questions, and he hears the question, Jim Harbaugh has come out and said that your actions were Bush League. And he comes out and goes, that's BS. Like, you don't think that people have reviewed the video and have saw what happened and things like that?
Lie, bro.
All I would say is this. He should have came out right away, and what he should have did was, and I know it's hard because Jim Harbaugh was the same way. When you lose, it's hard to then regain that momentum and still talk shit.
Yeah.
But I would do the same thing, double down. The first thing he should have said was, yeah, they should have got off my fucking field. Boom. If they don't want that to happen, he should have went with the same defense, doubled down, and said, look, if they have a problem, they can move their Wolverine asses off my field, and then there'll be no problems, and we handled our business. And so that's what he should have did. He should have doubled down and kind of maintain a little bit of respect, because what happened now is the Wolverines now have basically swept over the whole PR game, and they've dominated in terms of talking shit. And I don't want to see that. Mark Dantonio has been a guy that's been at the forefront of this. He reacted to little brother by saying, hey, you know what? Pride comes before the fall. We don't like Michigan and things like that. And so now when you lose...
He's been one of the guys who's been most outspoken in this rivalry.
All you got to say is, look, you know what? Michigan had a team. Don't call it an excuse, but say, look, you know what? In a game like this, we needed all of our weapons. They weren't there. Kudos to Michigan. But in the last decade, if you just look at it, we're still the team to beat. And just look based on their reaction, they believe that we're a rival and we're going to come back and we're going to do the same kind of things in the future. This isn't over. But what did Mark Dantonio do? He just went this whole it's BS route. Now let's move on to Purdue. When you got the opposing coach now puffing his chest out, puff your chest out. That's what a rivalry is.
Why are you going in your home?
Why did Mark Dantonio take this approach? I don't understand. Because we're not talking about Purdue. Because everyone thinks Purdue's going to curb stomp your ass. You know, based upon the fact that your quarterback looks like he's regressed and looks like a high school quarterback. You got to go out there and maintain a little bit of respect for your program. And by allowing Jim Harbaugh to talk shit all over you, so what? You lost. You've dominated Michigan for the better part of a decade. And now Jim Harbaugh's there. It's just going back and forth year after year. Right now, what's happened is Jim Harbaugh is trying to sell the Wolverine program, and he's trying to talk a bunch of shit because he won the game. But I think Mark Dantonio should have stood toe-to-toe and talked the same amount of shit and said, look, you know what? We did it. Yeah, we own it. And when we play Michigan, we hate them, and we're going to handle our business. Get the fuck off our field. We don't care. And he should have set notice for anybody. If anybody's in our way, watch the film. Your ass is getting clotheslined. Set the tone. That's what you did. It wasn't like you tried to hide it. Why go, oh, what are you guys talking about? It's because that's when the other side gets pissed. If you stand in there and you talk the same amount of shit as your opponent, you get more respect than being as passive, and you come off looking weak. And Michigan State, I think, took a huge step back in terms of public perception, in terms of recruits, in terms of national respect. You got punked all the way around, and that's not what the leader of a program does. And then the icing on the cake, you have the press conference, you set the tone, you're like, I'm not addressing any questions. Every single freaking week, you do a one-on-one with Justin Rose. Every single week, you give him 3, 4, 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever. It's cut down into a couple-minute clip that we get to see. And it's usually jovial. It's usually good. Justin's nice, and he's a professional reporter. All of a sudden, you decide, I'm not going to talk. Why? You're going to close down talks about Michigan? You lost. Talk about it. You have built-in reasons. Not like you're not going to reload next year. It's not like if you retool a little bit. Michigan did it. They had an awful offensive staff. They had an awful situation in which that offense was being run. Boom, you go out, you get Don Brown, you add, you blow out Drevno, you bring in Warner, you improve the staff, you bring in wide receiving coaches. That's all you got to say is, look, Michigan retooled, we'll do the same, and we'll be in this rivalry like we have been. It's not the same.
But does Mark Dantonio have the autonomy to do that? I don't know if Michigan State gives him the checkbook that Jim Harbaugh gets. Jim Harbaugh, you're right. Things aren't working. Jim Harbaugh goes out there and makes moves. He brings other guys in. He might not completely flip over the entire staff because he just adds pieces, it seems like.
Hey, if you don't got the checkbook, you leave because you got to compete. Michigan is now right there at your doorstep, and they got their quarterback, and he ain't going anywhere. So you better compete, and you got to stand up for the program. Look, a loss is a loss. It happens. It happened 2 years ago in your house, and now it happened again in your house in 2018, and there were a lot of factors that caused it. Obviously, your coaching wasn't good enough. Obviously, the injuries just piled up, and Lewerke didn't do a good job. But what you got to do is you got to defend the den. You got to defend your program. You can't let someone come into Spartan Stadium and completely dominate you before the game, during the game, after the game. Look, you got to at least stand up for the program and say, hey, look, we're Michigan, because they're taking a lot of shit from everybody online. They're taking a lot of shit from Michigan. Look what happened. Chase Winovich comes out and brings back little brother. You got Jim Harbaugh on the attack.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah, so you have a situation in which Michigan State and we were owed something a little bit more from Mark Dantonio. As supporters, as fans of that football team, to get knocked down, that's fine. But then to have like the whole entire program kick you and things like that, where you just like, you went into the fetal position, in essence. No, stand back up, get back up, and say, look, we're here, we're in the mix. Michigan's got to go out there and put a little bit of pressure on Michigan. Say, look, they beat us, but now they got to go out and close the deal like we have. And in the past, they haven't. You got to talk a little shit. And it seems like Mark Dantonio and Jim Harbaugh kind of go a little bit into a shell, and they don't handle themselves exactly the way that I think they should when losses occur. And for Mark Dantonio, if he doesn't make changes, if that offensive staff stays the same, forget it. You're going to lose a lot of fans because it's not like you said it, like I've said it, it's not a competitive offense. That offense is not good enough to compete in the Big Ten in 2018 or 2019 or ever.
You brought up built-in excuses, and Brian Lewerke used one basically saying my arm's not right, my shoulder's not right, I'm dealing with an injury. Does Lewerke get let off the hook? Like you said, he had an awful performance, and you sent me the stat. He went 5 of 25 through 20%. He completed 20% of his passes. That is the worst by a Big Ten quarterback in over 20 years with a minimum of 20 attempts. That is god-awful. He has been the worst quarterback in over 20 years in all of the Big Ten.
I'm thoroughly embarrassed because now when we move away from the off-the-field stuff, and that's just, hype and hyperbole and public relations. I'm saying that Mark Dantonio failed in public relations. He's now taking an ass-kicking from the entire Wolverine Nation and some now of Spartan Nation who are not happy, and especially when he came out and said that, I'm going to let God handle my battles. A lot of people did not respond positively to that message. But I'm going to say this. On the field, if you want to look at that, I'm embarrassed because how do you let a quarterback who doesn't prepare much during Michigan week get on that field? You sacrificed Brian Lewerke. He was your best option. A hurt Brian Lewerke. After the first series of throws you see, look, we were all like, oh, Lewerke's not looking like he's throwing the ball right. He's throwing it like into the third row. He's missing receivers. He doesn't look right. So you don't know that he's injured? Boom, right then and there. After that first series, I was at the gym earlier this week, and they replayed the game. And you look at that first series after Michigan scored the touchdown. He threw a pass that looked so god-awful. I was like, oh, my God, this is not a guy that's going to get you anything that is remotely anywhere near competitive. And you brought him back, and you decided to start him? Is Rocky Lombardi that god-awful? You can't prepare somebody and say, look, if Mark Dantonio would have started Rocky Lombardi, you wave the white flag, but you have an excuse because everybody kind of knew Michigan was better, and you would have had to have mistakes. You would have had to have really a lot of things go in Michigan State's favor. Look, if Lewerke wasn't healthy, the decision should have been made not to start him, or if you do go with it, he's on a short leash. If he looks like that after those first couple series, his ass should have been yanked. And that's Mark Dantonio's fault. He didn't put Michigan State in his job. Number one job is put Michigan State's athletes in the best positions to succeed. And he didn't do that.
Well, what about this? Do you take any solace in... I mean, really and truly, the game was pretty close. Michigan dominated them from the start to the very, very end. Do you agree or do you not agree?
I agree. I think that there was obviously a talent disparity, but it was 7-7, and
right.
You had an opportunity to make a big play, but unfortunately Felton Davis went down, and there was nobody else to step up that could make that more than 15-yard play.
But is there any solace taken? Because we both agree that Michigan controlled that entire game. That entire game. But the game on the scoreboard was much closer than I think the game actually felt.
Yeah, of course.
So it seemed like forever the game was within a score. And in the end, Michigan ends up pulling away, which I think we both thought. But I think Mark Dantonio had a decent game plan. He just didn't have the athletes. He didn't have the firearms to do what he needed to do. And if Brian Lewerke is hurt, you're right. He probably shouldn't have been playing in that game.
Or at least after the first series, yank him out.
And then Felton Davis goes down. And I think by all accounts, we both agree, Felton Davis is Michigan State's best offensive weapon.
Of course.
You lose him, everything's kind of going in a tailspin now. LJ Scott, can we find him on a milk carton, please? Like, he's been missing all season long. He's not been very good. That run game, atrocious, absolutely atrocious. Defensively, I thought Michigan State did a really good job in the trenches. Up front, going up against Michigan's offensive line, I thought they did a pretty solid job. I don't think they ever got home on a lot of their pressures, but I think they did a good enough job. I think where Michigan State really lost the game was in their secondary. Not having Josiah Scott, not having other guys out there who can make plays and having big play guys. You've seen it when Nico Collins goes up, brings the ball down for a touchdown. Donovan Peoples-Jones streaks down the field for 79 yards to score a touchdown. That secondary was the weakness. That was the one thing that needed to be exposed. Michigan exposed it, and they took advantage of it. They ended up capping it off with a Ben Mason touchdown.
So
awesome.
So post-game now, we look at it and we go, wow, in the annals of time, that was an interesting game, and the rivalry for the next 10 years is probably going to be very spicy. I think everyone's excited for next November. We're all excited to see how Michigan State responds, how they're going to retool, and that game could have some fireworks because if Michigan celebrated like that what is Michigan State going to do should they have the opportunity to win the game? It just feels like the rivalry has gone up a notch, and it's just great to be because, look, I actually was cool that a lot of people didn't talk as much shit, and the good thing is people kind of recognized, okay, based upon the staff, we got a lot of Michigan supporters, we got a lot of Michigan State supporters, and we didn't lose a lot of followers. We got a lot of interaction based upon the tweet that I asked about Devin Bush. The game was great. People respected us, and I really loved where it was at in terms of the network and how the rivalry took. Look, it's a rivalry. We should talk shit to each other. That's what's supposed to happen. But as long as we're
That's
not
why
throwing,
we do this.
Yeah, we talk shit to each other. So this is great. And that I expect, hey, if Michigan State loses, I expect 100 tweets, blasting Michigan State, and Michigan State wins, maybe another account kind of pops in and we'll tweet for once a year and things like that. That's what a rivalry is, and that's what it's supposed to be. As long as you can keep it verbal on Twitter, it kind of lends to that, and that's fine. But as long as it doesn't get physical and you don't become disrespectful, then it's all fine. But now we got to talk about it because in the rivalry, it's great because Michigan State fans are going back to a decade and Michigan fans are like, dude, in the last 3, we've won 2. So that's where the fun rivalry is what angle you take to support your side, and I love it. But definitely it lends to when you see the god-awful stats that were put out there. I had asked you, and I'll get your sense of it, what was more embarrassing in 2013 when Devin Gardner was there and it was just like Sack City? He was sacked, I think, 7 times, and including, that was included in the stat. But in 2013, Michigan State's defense caused the Michigan rushing total to be negative 48 or 49 yards. Or what was worse, Brian Lewerke going 5 of 25 and having the worst completion percentage by a Big Ten quarterback in 20 years. What was more god-awful?
Brian Lewerke's performance was probably worse because he did nothing to really help his team. Now, you go back to that Michigan State game, Michigan got absolutely dominated up and down the field. They ended up losing 29-6. It was a brutal game. It was absolutely brutal. No two ways you can cut it. I think what Lewerke did, because the game was close, like I said, at no point did it really ever, at least according to the scoreboard, was it ever out of hand. If Brian Lewerke could have made a couple of passes, it had changed the entire outlook of that game, I think. Brian Lewerke wasn't able to do anything. There was nothing he could do. They ended up bringing Rocky Lombardi in, and he's able to, it was like 19 penalties back to back to back, but he was able to move the ball down the field up until he got sacked 2 or 3 straight times. What Brian Lewerke did is probably worse. It's probably worse, and that is because Michigan was able to move the ball rushing, but it was all the sacks. It was that defense. Michigan State's defense was so good.
A Twitter supporter of ours, he said, look, why don't you guys give credit to both defenses and don't phrase it that way? And definitely both defenses did a great job, but I feel like Michigan State, in terms of sacking Devin Gardner, really put the pressure on him and really didn't allow that offense, especially in a game back then in 2013. Everybody talked about it, rushing yards. Brian Lewerke has been hurt, so I think Michigan's defense had an advantage there in that he wasn't going to do much, even without pressure. He just, Jim Harbaugh alluded to it and
but
said
nobody knew Lewerke was hurt until Lewerke came out and said he was hurt. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And is it just an excuse? Like, oh, my shoulder's sore. Like, cool, bro. Like, I have a sore shoulder. I go to work every day.
Right, but
you know what I'm saying?
But I don't think they get credit.
Go to work,
for,
do your thing.
Yeah, but I don't think the defense gets as much credit for him not throwing the ball accurately because he had time to throw it. He had guys open. Mm-hmm. It's just he wasn't able to execute.
He wasn't able to complete anything.
Yeah, whereas back in 2013, Michigan State's defense pinned their ears back and they destroyed Devin Gardner.
They just went at them.
Exactly. So That's why I think it was a little bit more embarrassing on that front. But both teams, their defenses really shined and things like that.
Dude, I'm just looking at. I'm looking at some of the names that were involved in that 2013 game. Yeah. You have Darquez Denard, who's a stud. Remember Tony Lippett? Tony Lippett was a very good wide receiver for Michigan State. Benny Fowler, another very good wide receiver for Michigan State. Who else we got? Of course, Connor Cook was the QB. Jeremy Langford. I'm waiting to see L.J. Scott on here. It feels like L.J. Scott's been at Michigan State forever.
Right.
He doesn't know how to take a driving test because he's always on suspension.
One of the
Mike Sadler was there. Yeah, there's a bulla in there. There's like 18 bullas going to Michigan State.
So now we're here midweek, And after everyone's evaluated that game, kind of dissected what happened before the game, during the game, and now after the game, Steve Deace, host of the Michigan podcast, which airs every Tuesday on our network, he opened his video with just a big jug of Kool-Aid, blue Kool-Aid, and he's like, I'm all in, I believe. And that's all they waited for. Michigan fans now can say they've beaten a ranked team, a big game on the road, and now they're looking ahead. And so everybody's now, Steve Deace is in. A lot of people are now saying, look, based upon what we see with that offense and defense, you got Shea Patterson, who's just a little bit better than a game manager, a guy with a solid arm that makes good decisions and can lead an offensive football team.
You know what? Can we talk about Shea Patterson real quick? I don't mean to cut you off and stop your train of thought.
It's okay.
But watching that game on Saturday, he does something so special. His read options are incredible. There are times where the camera follows the running back, and the running back doesn't have the ball. The camera guy doesn't realize that Shea Patterson still has the ball until he's streaking down the field for 12 yards. And then the camera's like, oh, crap, I got to get back on Shea. And you can see the camera just adjusting and trying to follow the play. He does such a good job disguising his read options. It's unbelievable. When they go to face Ohio State, I think they need to install more of that misdirection, letting him make the right decision, because he does a great job diagnosing and reading the play, and he knows when to stick the ball in the running back's belly, and he knows when to pull it out. He does an exceptional job disguising it, and he's got some wiggle to him. The guy's not the fastest guy out there, but he has a little wiggle. He was running down he was running down the field, and you've seen him sit there and elude, I think, like 3 tackles from Michigan State players. And you could just see, I was doing it for my wife while he was running. I was like, watch him, wiggle, 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 wiggle. Oh, there's some more wiggle. And then he gets knocked down. He's got a little bit of wiggle to him, and it helps out when he's making his way down the field. But he does such an exceptional job of disguising his read option play. It's great, man. I don't think enough credit gets passed along to him for doing that. He does such a great job. Next time you're watching a Michigan game, or next time you get to go to the game and you're going to cover it for the network, watch how well he does at just hiding the football and forcing the defenses to believe that the running back has the ball. And watch his decision-making when he decides to give the ball to the running back and how that opens up and how many yards the running back's able to get. It's not one of those things where he hands the ball to the running back and the running back's getting stuffed 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage. No. He's sticking the ball in the running back's belly, and the running back is able to gain 10 yards. He's able to pick up a huge chunk play. And then when he keeps the ball himself, he's able to pick up a huge chunk play. I think when they go to face Ohio State, it has to be part of the game plan. It has to be done a lot more than the little bit that they do it in every single game.
So everybody's now excited. They're starting to think, okay, maybe we can beat Penn State, Indiana, and get to the big game on the road, November 24th, noon kickoff in Ohio. Do you believe? Are you all in? Do you think that Michigan is a legitimate contender to win the Big Ten? Can they go to Ohio and win the game? Because Ohio State took a loss to Purdue, and now it's all on film on how you go and punk Ohio State.
I'm salivating. I can't wait for them to play Ohio State. I wish they were playing Ohio State this week. I can't wait. I do not believe in the Buckeyes at all. Like, going into the year, I was like, all right, maybe, they got all this stuff going on. There's a whole lot of smoke, and there's a fire somewhere. You see what happens when Urban comes back. He feigns like he's having a heart attack on the sideline. Look, Urban's got one foot out the door right now. He does. He's going to pull the whole Florida trip again. Oh, I need to take some time off. My health. I'm having a heart attack. I've got bad headaches. I've got to get out of here. I need some time to myself. Don't be surprised if there's a coaching change at the end of the year because Harbaugh is feeling the heat. He needs to get out of the kitchen. All right, but I have no confidence in Ohio State right now. Now, I like Haskins. I think Haskins is a very good quarterback. I think he's exceptional. They have no idea how to use Haskins as their quarterback and run the ball. They have no clue what they're doing there. On top of all that, they lose their best player on defense, Nick Bosa, who says, I'm checking out. I'm going to go get ready for the NFL. Deuces, y'all. Deuces. That defense is not good. It's not good at all. I expect Michigan to run all over them. I expect Karan Higdon, the guy who we had sitting in this chair that I'm sitting in right now, I'm expecting that big, mammoth, gargantuan dude to have a game. I'm expecting him to go off. Factor in that, again, I've already said they don't have a defense. Donovan Peoples-Jones looks like he got a little bit of his swagger back. You're starting to believe in him a little bit more, or at least I am. I was kind of lukewarm on him. Tariq Black should be back. I'm expecting him to be back for the Penn State game. You're going to see how this offense evolves when you have a game breaker like Tariq Black in it. It's going to look a little bit different. It's going to be more explosive. I think both those dudes are going to have games, just going to go off. On top of all that, Michigan's defense, you guys do realize they don't have Rashawn Gary. Rashawn Gary hasn't played. Hasn't. He's been hurt. Got a bum shoulder. Hasn't been able to. Have you missed him? Have you missed him? If you haven't missed him, you're probably in the same boat as me. And if you haven't missed him, what does that tell you about this defense? When you get him back, because he should be coming back, when you get him back, how much better is this defense going to be? How good has Chase Winovich been? Chase Winovich looks like a man amongst boys out there, running around the field, chirping at dudes. You've got to love Chase Winovich. I have no idea how you feel as a Spartan fan, but me as a Michigan fan, I love Chase Winovich. I love watching this guy post-game. I love watching this guy in the game. He's chirping at the sideline. He's telling you, run the ball at me. Come get some. Come get some. He's beating his chest. He's sitting there ready to rip his shirt off like he's Superman. He's telling you, come at me. I'm Mr. M Go Blue. Come get some. I love watching Chase Winovich play. Chase Winovich, Rashawn Gary, the rest of that defense, taking down Ohio State, baby.
Okay, and then I think the other thing that kind of upset Michigan fan in terms of the rivalry with Michigan State, I'm going to ask you too because you're confident that Michigan can beat Ohio State. I'm going to tease
I'm feeling
a question.
good about it right now.
I'll tease one more question.
Maybe I got all lathered up with my M Go Blue butter.
I'll tease one more question about Ohio State, but a lot of people were a little bit concerned with what Chase Winovich said after the game. Here's the clip.
We came in here, I openly, in the public, called it a revenge tour, called them out, said they were next. We came in here, slashed their field before the game, and we still came out here and just got after them every single play. Like I said last week, the prior couple weeks were for the boys. This one, just for our season. And we knew that they couldn't hang with us. We did what we had to do. Sometimes your little brother starts acting up, and you just got to put him in place. Like they tried, they gave it their best. It just wasn't enough. Our guys came out on top, and we're just going to continue to work and try to get better and build from here.
Is little brother played out? Do you agree or disagree with how Chase Winovich handled himself after the game?
Whenever Chase Winovich gets done talking, I just want to. Do you remember Captain Caveman from the Flintstones? Like Little Flintstones or whatever it was. I just want a Captain Caveman yell, Captain Caveman! 'Cause, like, honestly, dude, does he not look like Captain Caveman? Look
Captain
at that.
Caveman.
Look at that. Does he not resemble him a little bit?
Dude, your co-host on the WDFN Tailgate had a great picture on his Twitter page. Ryan, that was funny.
That was so good. He sent that to me through text message. I was like, please post that. Post that and tag me in it because it deserves a retweet. It's great.
Who do you compare Chase Winovich
to Fat Amy in Pitch Perfect, which was great. It was awesome.
It was good.
I don't like Little Brother. I hate Little Brother. I think it's played out. I think Chase Winovich is better than Little Brother.
Oh, I think it's great.
But
I think, like I said, whenever you win, you have the right to talk shit.
That's what I was going to say. Here's the deal. He played his ass off. The guy played like an animal. He deserved to talk. If anybody was going to chirp, he was allowed to chirp. It was okay. I myself, though, I hate Little Brother. I hate hearing Little Brother. I hate watching the Mike Hart video. I went home the other night, and my stepdad was sitting in his recliner, and they had the cut. They had, you know how Fox ran the little promotional thing for the game, the commercial, hyping it all up, and it had Mike Hart sitting there doing his Mike Hart speech about, you know how Little Brother just starts acting up a little bit, and then you got to come in, you just got to knock him down and take it all away. That's what you do, Little Brother. Shut up, Mike Hart. Shut up. Like, I was enraged. Like, you know how, like, when you get mad, like, you can feel your face get flushed? Like, I was, like, I seen that, and I was like, oh. And my stepdad's like, what's wrong? I was like, I hate Mike Hart. And he was like, what are you talking about? Like, he's a big Michigan fan, too. He's like, what are you talking about? Mike Hart was a really good running back. I was like, Mike Hart was an average-ass running back. He was decent in college. He was a bum in the pros. I was like, Mike Hart just had a big mouth. I was like, he wasn't even that good when he was at Michigan. And he was pretty good when he was at Michigan. But he was very good when he went to the pros. Anyways, I was like, Mike Hart talked too much. Like, Little Brother, it's so played out. I'm over it. I'm done with it. I don't need to hear it. I hate hearing it. I don't need any Little Brother.
Now, all Michigan fans...
My face is red right now. I'm so angry about it.
Now, all Michigan fans are excited. They think there's a realistic chance they could get to Indy and even qualify for the college football playoff. But let's say, you know what, that it does play out to form, that they go to Ohio State, and it's just really kind of tough to win on the road.
Blasphemy. Blasphemy.
What if they lose?
Don't be a blasphemer.
What if they lose? What if it doesn't happen? They don't
Going
get
to the
Indy?
Rose Bowl then. That sucks. That sucks really bad.
How disappointed should Michigan fans be realistically if they don't get to Indy?
You should be disappointed. Honestly, at this point, seeing what this defense has done, and I don't know how many more years Don Brown's going to be able to do this with these defenses, because you look at last year's defense, it was really, really good. You look at this year's defense, it's a little bit better. I don't know how much more magic is in the bottle, right? So do you want to waste these seasons with these guys that you have? The answer is no. You should be disappointed if they don't beat Ohio State. It feels like of all the years, right? This is the year for you to go in there and pop Ohio State. Punch them right in the mouth and knock about 3 teeth out. It's the only 3 teeth they have because just about everybody in Columbus got them summer teeth. Some are here, some are there. Some are brown, some are black, some are yellow. So pop them in their mouth and knock out those 3 summer teeth. It would be super disappointing if you go to Columbus and you lose. At this point, all Michigan fans should be believing and buying in the hype. And this is the thing.
It should happen. They have to kind of go. It should, right? Because you have a chance.
It feels like it, right?
Then go to Indy, win, because I think a one-loss Michigan team has a realistic chance above 50% to get to the playoff.
Let me tell you the matchup I want to see after this. Okay? So you go to Columbus, you beat them. It feels like it's just everything is working in your favor right now. You have the offensive power, you've got the defensive power. You can do it. You really can. And you should want to do it. All Michigan fans should be buying into the hype right now. If you look at Jim Harbaugh came into this season, and we talked to Anthony about it last week, and I brought up the point that I felt like Jim Harbaugh came into this year much more toned down. I think everybody would agree. Instead of him being at an 11, he was somewhere around a 6 or a 7. Not as eccentric, not as wild and crazy, not as out there. After that Michigan State game, it looked like a new fire was lit in him. If you look at his eyes when he's sitting there addressing the media and he's talking to them about what happened with Michigan State and everything that unfolded on the field and how it all played out, there's a little gusto there. There's a little bit there. Like, he's feeling himself right now. He believes in this team now. And I can't tell you the last time I've seen Jim Harbaugh look at his team and believe in his own guys. Like, yeah, he sits there and he trusts his guys and he thinks they're going to go out there and win. But no, I think right now he believes these dudes are going to go out there and they're going to mollywop everybody they face. Like, there is nobody who can beat us. I don't care if you're Alabama. I don't care if you're LSU. I don't care if you're Clemson. I don't care if you're Notre Dame right now. And that's where I want to go with this. I want to see Michigan versus Notre Dame one more time. I want Michigan versus Notre Dame one more time. You know I go back and forth to Indy a lot. I watch a lot of Notre Dame games because it's all that's on TV there. Whenever I go out, it's all that's on TV. Like, you've never seen a city get so up for one sport, one team, at one time. Everybody shuts down what they're doing to watch a Notre Dame game. I watch a ton of Notre Dame football. Notre Dame is a completely different team than when Michigan played them. And Michigan is a completely different team than when they played Notre Dame. I want to see these two match up head-to-head. Winner gets to go on and play for the national championship. Shit. Winner plays for the national. Winner gets the national championship. I don't care. I want to see them match up one more time. I want to see it would be such a good game. I want to see it one more time.
One more time. Avenge the loss. Man, it would be interesting to see how Michigan, that defense, would travel against a Clemson or an Alabama. What would that look like?
I think Jim Harbaugh believes that they would pop everybody in the mouth, though. Like, if you just look at his eyes when he's addressing, like, during the break, I'll sit there, I'll pull it up on ESPN. You got to look at the way this guy looks when he's talking to the media, and he believes in his dudes. That's the best way I can put it. He believes his guys are the superior dudes on the field at all times.
All right, let's give credit to Putty. He definitely responded to your request to send in a voicemail.
That's my dude right there.
Yeah, he was well within his right. He took his shots. Here's his voicemail. And you can leave us a voicemail 24/7 about any topic in regards to Detroit sports at 248-579-8686. That's 248-579-8686. Here's Putty from Florida.
DocNJock, Adam, Doc, Putty in Florida. God, it's kind of tough to talk shit after a game like that with all the ups and downs Michigan's had and Lansing and all the shit talking. But, Doc, hold on. I've got to sign for a package I'm sending to you for East Lansing. Hold on just a second. Yeah. It's a couch. Of course it's not retarded. Mean why? They're going to set it on fire and they're retarded when they lose to Michigan. Just get it there by tonight. All right, thanks. All right, sorry about that. No, Doc, I'm going to go easy on you because I know that you had shit planned for when your boys were going to win, so I'll keep it very light. And I just wanted to play this little song for you because I'm sure that it's kind of fitting, you know, because you were so convinced that State was going to win. Just thought that was kind of fitting. Can't wait to get down there for Penn State. And that being said, along the way, too, I just want to play the sweet sounds of Lansing tonight in those poor couches. Live check-in from Lansing right here.
I'm familiar with that sound.
There was some time.
See you in 2 weeks, bitches. Go blue.
There was some time and effort, and that was coordinated. That was good.
That's what you're supposed to do.
That was good.
That's why a guy like that maybe
Buddy's
gets
the
an invite.
man.
Yeah, a guy like that might get an invite.
I can't wait to party with that dude for Penn State.
The voicemail, 248-579-8686. You can talk shit freely. We take it, and I'm eating crow. The question was asked, which is a good one, and I'm not sure because I just kind of gave a stock answer, but how do the people at Michigan State get so many couches so cheap? Is it Craigslist? I said Craigslist.
I don't know.
Because I can share a little bit. I had a client that talked about going to East Lansing, and they're like, oh yeah, they had a couch ready. If Michigan State would have won, couches were going to get burned. They had it in Cedar Village. They were locked and loaded.
I just don't understand why.
It's a tradition.
I
was there in 97. They burned couches. I think it just gets passed down to generation to generation.
Why?
I think it's great. It's tradition.
Like, who's got a bum-ass couch that we can just set on fire? That'd be like
not a couch, mattresses.
That'd be like me rolling up to your house and be like, hey, John, you got a bum couch that we can just burn? Like, Michigan State one. Let's go set something on fire. Do you have a bad couch that you don't care about?
I guess it's
No.
a retarded way that Michigan State supporters recycle. That's how we recycle. It's just burn shit.
Oh man, I just don't understand why you guys set so much stuff on fire. I just don't understand.
Well, dude, it's fall. It's cold as shit.
Oh, you guys don't have apartment living over in Cedar Village?
Dude, he's expensive.
Okay.
All right. That was fun. Thank you, Putty. Again, voicemail 248-579. 248-579-8686. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back. We're going to finish the podcast. A lot of positives to talk about. We're definitely going to go in depth and talk about the Detroit Lions. Right after this, you're listening to Doc and Jock on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Adam, let me tell you about our newest sponsor, the Motor City Pawnbrokers. Motor City Pawnbrokers is the one-stop pawn shop when you're in need of short-term cash or are looking for quality brand name, new, and pre-owned merchandise. With locations in Detroit, Ferndale, Roseville, and Warren, their mission is to deliver exceptional value. Go definitely check out the specials and weekly deals at MotorCityPawnbrokers.com. That's MotorCityPawnbrokers.com. Thanks again, everybody, for downloading us across the various platforms. You can find the Detroit Sports Podcast Network anywhere that you can find podcasts, whether it be our website, DetroitSportsPodcast.com, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher. Definitely check out our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast. We post every single show. You can just click a single button, and we can provide great interviews, quality sports debate, and uncensored Detroit sports content. This portion of the show brought to you by Podomatic. Adam and I have only used one host site since we started this project, and that's Podomatic. So if you're going to start a brand new project, definitely check out Podomatic.com. Because how great is it when you have an expectation that the Lions can go down to Miami and handle their business, that they did it. And in the fashion in which they accomplished their mission was amazing via the rush. Unbelievable. Kerryon Johnson, I was kind of like, okay, I got him on my bench. He was a pickup. I stupidly dropped Latavius Murray because it was a bye week situation. And I'm like, well, I got Kerryon. I got a couple guys on the Eagles offense that are doing well. Let me put in Kerryon Johnson. I asked around, I'm like, should I do it? And they were like, well, go ahead, give it a shot. And I was like, yes. And he came and he delivered within that first series. You saw, oh boy, there's a concerted effort after the bye week. Rush the damn football. And they were able to early, often, and when you have over 200 yards rushing in a game, it makes the task quite easy to get the W. And the Detroit Lions handled their business. I was so impressed. It was just great to kind of kick your feet up and go, That's what a professional football team looks like when you go and face an opponent that you're probably just a little bit better than. It was workmanlike. It was professional. They went down to Miami and kicked their ass, and it kind of shed some of the past stuff and bullshit that the team didn't play for Patricia, that they didn't like working that hard. Look, that Miami Heat was like 85 degrees or more. The humidity was hot. It was hot as shit. Everybody was complaining, but the Lions didn't look tired. They didn't fade.
Tired at all.
They looked like they got stronger. And if that's what it takes, a little bit of bitching early on, maybe one god-awful performance to get acclimated to Patricia's system, if that's what we get, and we can continue to kind of develop an identity as a smash-mouth football team led by Kerryon Johnson, I'm just sitting here crossing my fingers going, let's just keep it going versus a team like Seattle. You can do that at home versus a team that can do some things defensively, then hell, I'm impressed.
Yeah, look, going into that game, I wasn't sure that the Lions were going to win it.
Really?
If you listen to the DFN tailgate,
Brock
when
Osweiler.
we came to the picks, I ended up taking the Dolphins +3. Now, I thought maybe Detroit would win, but it would be a closer game. I didn't think it would be the way it was. And the reason I took the Dolphins was I just thought the run game was going to be superior to what the Lions rolled out there on D. And boy, was I wrong. And I totally changed my tune after that very first series. That game felt so different to me, and it felt different to me.
Go Lions! Yeah!
That's right, Jarvie. Go Lions! It felt so different to me the moment that defense was able to get a stop. The moment that the Lions were able to get off the field, I was like, they're going to win this game. They're going to win this game. Next thing you know, Kerryon Johnson's out there just chewing up yards, running all over the place. If I would have told you going into this season that the Detroit Lions would have the 11th best run game, right? The 11th best run game. Mind you, last year, you do realize that they were like 28th, 29th. No, actually, they were dead last, I think, last year. If I told you they had the 11th best run game going into the year, you'd have took it all day long. You'd have said, there's no way in hell, but I'll take it. And then if I was to turn around and tell you that you would have a running back who is averaging the second most yards per attempt, you tell me to go fly a kite. You'd say, get the hell out of my face. You're smoking crack. And I would say, no, listen to me. They've got something here. They said, hey, we're going to invest and we're going to build our offensive line. We're going to go get a running back. We're going to redo this. We're going to take some of this burden off Matt Stafford, and we're going to learn how to run the football. And you know what good football teams do? Good teams. Good teams know how to run the football. Do you know why? Because it helps milk the clock. It helps chew up time. You keep the other team on the sideline, and you don't blow games late. How often would the Detroit Lions be in a shootout and they would blow a game late? How often? All the time.
And something happened in that game, maybe that set forth what happened this week, in that the Detroit Lions did give up a rushing touchdown. Wasn't that great. The quality of tackling wasn't great on that particular play, and it also helped the Miami Dolphins. I had texted you. I said, okay, barring anything unforeseen happening, I think the Lions have a good chance. We can talk about some positives about the Detroit Lions. And then the next possession, Miami just hands the ball off, and boom, the guy goes.
So it's
30.
you.
Yeah, it's me, of course.
It's you. You're the curse.
I said, look, of course it happened. But the Lions, responded, and they were able to handle their business. But the Detroit Lions went out and potentially made a move to upgrade. They realized, look, there are some teams that are tanking. They're giving up people. And the Detroit Lions, now, it hasn't been confirmed officially, but it's like 99% going to happen, have went out and acquired for basically nothing. I love seeing headlines on national media platforms that say the Detroit Lions fleeced the New York Giants when they only gave up. The Lions were only forced to give up a 5th-round pick for one of the top 10 rushing defenders, Damon Harris Sr., known as Snacks. Are you kidding me right now?
I just love the nickname Snacks.
Are you kidding me right now? The Detroit Lions identified a weakness. They went out and improved the team before the deadline. That hasn't happened that hasn't happened too often for them to acknowledge, okay, we can get better.
Bro, in ever.
And they didn't give up shit to get him.
Yes.
You would have thought, okay, if you had told me, the Lions made a trade, okay, they gave up a 2nd-rounder, and they had to give up Golden Tate. No, they went out and they said, here, Giants, we know you guys are sucking. Well, we know that you're going to have to give up a player. We'll give you a 5th. And they're like, okay. And they gave it up. And we got Damon Harrison Sr., a guy that can help right away in terms of shoring up that run defense. I'm liking it. Liking it a lot.
Yeah, no, it was exceptional. It was great. A 5th-round draft pick?
That's nothing.
For real? For a dude who's going to be on your team, he's signed for the next 2.5, 3 seasons. Like, he's not going anywhere. You got a steal. You got a Pro Bowl player who's going to be here. On top of that, you got a Pro Bowl player who makes moves. You got a Pro Bowl player who makes impact. He's a guy who's going to help change the way this defensive front looks. On top of that, what you're seeing with the Detroit Lions is, and I believe this fully, going into next season, when you go to hit the draft, it's going to be defense, 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 defense. We need an offensive tackle because TJ Lang's probably gone, right? So, or we're going to need an offensive guard. We're going to have to go and we're going to have to, one of those picks is going to be involved on addressing the offensive line, but it is going to be defense heavy. They're going to revamp that defense and get it right. What you're seeing here, though, is by going out there and grabbing this, he's a nose tackle. Expect to see more of that 3-4 front that Matt Patricia wants to run. This is a team that has predominantly been 4-3 forever. Matt Patricia comes in and says, well, we're going to kind of scheme stuff. We're going to do a little bit of scheming here and there. Matt Patricia, when he was in New England, liked to run a lot of 3-4. He would bring the linebackers up and put them on the line, and sometimes you'd have 5 and 6 guys up on the line ready to blitz the quarterback or to sit there and put pressures on the QB or the running back. But this team's going to start to transform into more of a 3-4 defense. You're probably not going to see it this week against Seattle because Snacks, which I love the nickname Snacks.
That's his Twitter handle, too. SNACKS. Welcome to Detroit. Give him a follow.
I love Snacks. Expect to see Snacks not involved too much in the Seattle game, if at all. But the following week, yes, Snacks will be involved, and Snacks will be causing a ruckus. I love the move. I think it's awesome. This team realizes something that I think all of us realize. The NFC North, they're still in it. Like, they are, as much as that first game against the Jets sucked, and losing a heartbreaker to the 49ers sucked. All right, this team still has a legitimate shot to win the NFC North right now. And some of you may scoff at that. Some of you may laugh at that. But they have a legit shot to win the NFC North. Look at Minnesota. What's going on in Minnesota? Minnesota's run game, thank God they've got Latavius Murray, and he knows how to run the damn football because Dalvin Cook is on the sideline. He might be benched until week 11. This guy hasn't been healthy in 2 seasons. And some of us have them on their fantasy team as a keeper because they're an idiot, like me. All right? On top of all that, their defense is banged up. Their defense is kind of in shambles right now. At least their front 7 is kind of a little bit of a mess. All right? Now, look at Chicago. Look what's going on in Chicago. Khalil Mack has a bad ankle right now. He's got a bum wheel. He hasn't been as effective as you would like him to be or as he looked in their first 4 games. I don't trust Mitchell Trubisky. Do you? I don't think you do. They don't have any wide receivers over there. I like Allen Robinson, Orchard Lake St. Mary's own. I like him a lot. I used to cover him when I wrote for the Oakland Press. He was a great wide receiver in high school. He was pretty good at Penn State. And you know what? He's been a pretty damn good wide receiver in the NFL, but he's got nobody to throw him the ball because I don't trust Mitch. I don't trust Mitchie. Mitchie's not going to get it done. Look at Green Bay. Green Bay's a disaster. Green Bay sucks. All right? There's no reason you should lose to Green Bay when the end of the season rolls around unless you're hampered by injuries because their quarterback is being held together with popsicle sticks and glue right now. Dude's got a knee brace on. His leg's about to fall off. He looks like he should be in The Walking Dead. On top of that, their defense is atrocious. Their defense is horrible, bro. It is so bad. Their defense is a shell of a shell of a shell of what that defense was 8 years ago. Defense is bad. It's not good. Not any good. On top of that, their wide receivers are all nicked and banged up. All of them. Either head injuries, leg injuries, arm injuries, hamstring injuries. Everything is hurt. Everything is hurt. And their offensive line is garbage. Offensive line is trash.
Should the Lions stop? Should they go out and acquire one of the predominant corners that has kind of made it openly known that he wants to be traded, cornerback Patrick Peterson of the Arizona Cardinals?
I want to tell you, yeah, but I have to sit down and look at...
It's not like they don't need him necessarily, but it'd be nice to have.
Well, you say that, but if you look at who the Lions have played thus far, they really haven't ran up against an elite passing attack. You're not going to really run up against an elite passing attack until you play Minnesota. And I think then we'll know more about this team and what we have as far as the secondary. Yeah, their numbers look great right now, but they've played nobody. I mean, the guy who really tore you apart was a rookie quarterback for the New York Jets. You know, Sam Darnold kind of ate you alive a little bit, and that was more of a mix because they ran the ball so well that game. But I want to say yeah, but I have to look at what their salary cap situation is. Bringing in Snacks kind of throws everything off a little bit, but if you can go get him and the price is reasonable, why would you pass up on one of the best corners / safeties / secondary / defensive backs in all of the NFL? On top of it, Patrick Peterson's a good dude. He's not a guy who you got to worry about bringing into your locker room. He's going to mess everything up. He's a guy who you can bring in. He's going to help add some stability to that team. Yeah, if you can go get Patrick Peterson, I'm all on board. I mean, you just added a piece up front that's going to help your defensive line out. I think linebacker, I'd always like to add a linebacker, but you only have so many draft picks, and you're not going to sit there and expel all of your draft picks this year. So if it cost a third-round pick, I think we both agree yes, right? You'd go get Patrick Peterson for a third. You'd be stupid not to. But what if it costs a second? You're not giving up a first. There's no way in hell you're giving up a first-round pick, right? You can't do it. I don't think you can afford it salary cap-wise, at least not for the years to come. I don't think you could afford to do that, nor would I think you would do that because you're not the Dallas Cowboys, who are trading for a bum-ass wide receiver named Amari Cooper, who's a bum. But I think a second, would you give up a second?
Yeah, I'd do it.
You give up a second for Peterson? I think I'd give up a second too. I don't think I'd have a problem with that. But if I could tell you that you get a Pro Bowl player to play in your secondary, and all it's going to cost you is a second-round pick, would you do that? I think you should. I think you would. I think it makes your team that much better.
Makes your team better.
On top of that, you put him opposite of Darius Slay. Honestly, nobody wants to pass to anybody you have on their team. Like, nobody wants to throw against you.
So now I got to ask you,
that much better.
This weekend, you got some news, which is awesome. You can announce it now or later, whenever you feel comfortable. But this weekend, at home, Ford Field, Lions take on the Seattle Seahawks. They probably have an edge as long as they can stop the theatrics and the creativity of their quarterback, Russell Wilson. You stop him, you have an opportunity to just really destroy a team that's not really playing that good right now.
Yeah, so I'll be at the game covering it with a press credential.
Oh!
Looking like an actual media member.
How'd you feel when you got that? Because it wasn't, like I said, like in any situation, trying to get a credential is not easy. You got to face a little bit of a hurdle, but when you got the email and things like that, you feel good?
Yeah, I was excited. I was like, this is going to be cool. It's going to be a good time. I was just kind of excited. I was like, all right, cool. It feels like it's all happening like the way it's supposed to.
Yeah.
Best way I could describe it.
Well, yeah, you're supposed to do these things. I mean, you're a radio guy. You got a show. I mean, they should let you in. I mean, look, even though you might be 99 and 100th out of 99 and 100th, take it.
Shots fired. Love it.
No, it's awesome.
That's the best part about doing this podcast.
Of course.
Never forget where you come from, people. Ever. John will never let me forget where I come from.
No, man.
Ever.
No, are you kidding me? You've done that was the intention, was to get your name out there, build something, and shoot, if you could say, hey, I learned at a podcast level and help myself get to the radio level and do that kind of stuff. I mean, but you know what you're doing. It's not like you weren't a journalist. You're a trained journalist. That's why it's awesome. It's cool in that you can now flash your knowledge and do some work.
Yeah, man, it's good. Things are happening for us. It's good. You know, we usually open the show, we talk about it a little bit.
Yeah,
and we tend to touch on it during the program, but things are good for us.
You and little brother are doing some things. It's awesome.
That's right. That's right. Me and little brother.
But I will say this though, just not a critique, but you guys did a Facebook Live, and I thought it was cool.
Mm-hmm. I love the picture that you took, by the way.
Yes, it was great. It was great.
I looked at Ryan, and I was like, he is sometimes such an ass, and sometimes he's a genius.
Yes,
and I was like, this is awesome.
Yes.
So you did a great job.
But it's interesting that you guys do the show and that you're both around the show, but he's behind the glass.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see that dynamic, and you guys went to him, and it was cool to see, but you kind of figure out maybe just get an intern and make him behind the glass and get Ryan right up in your face.
Yeah, no, that'd be cool, but it's just like it's such a weird setup for that studio.
Yeah, to have him behind the glass and talking to him.
That studio is like 107 years old.
Yeah.
And most of the equipment in it is like 90 years old. It's like they were like, oh, let's refurbish some of this and invest a little bit. You know, it's just an old weird setup, man. It's not good. It's not a good setup, but it's what we got to work with, and we make the best out of it, and we do what we got to do with it. But that's neither here nor there. Seattle. Let's talk about Seattle.
What do the Lions got to do to win? Get the W.
Well, let me just start with this. What is Seattle? Does anybody know what Seattle is? I'll tell you what Seattle is. Seattle is a bad football team. Seattle has no identity. A few years ago, Seattle had the Legion of Boom, right? You didn't want to throw against them. Their secondary is atrocious. It's a mess. Their defense isn't very good. It's been beleaguered by injuries, bad draft picks, not being able to put things together consistently. So defensively, they don't scare me. I think the Lions are going to have a hell of a day with offense. I see Kerryon Johnson breaking another 100-yard game. I see Kerryon Johnson getting to the end zone. I also see the wide receivers scoring touchdowns because Seattle's secondary is doo-doo. On top of all that, what is their offense? That's not good either. Doug Baldwin is always hurt. The guy runs around with a concussion. Like, he needs to have one of those those little helmets on. You know when the boxers get in the ring and they're just kind of going through the warm-up and they're just kind of stretching out a little bit and they're just sparring? He needs one of those on all the time because his head is always so rattled. He's always beat up. So I don't trust Doug Baldwin. The rest of their wide receivers aren't that good. They don't have a running game. Their offensive line is shit. Like, legitimately, their offensive line is trash. It is so bad. The best player on that team is Russell Wilson. Their best player. You have to stop Russell Wilson. You have to find a way to contain Russell Wilson and force him to throw interceptions. Russell Wilson is having one of the worst years of his career right now. You need to find a way to force him to continue that trend. Their team is not good. This is a game that the Detroit Lions need to win.
Get that W, baby.
Handily.
Get the W. You call it? Get the W.
Get the W.
They're playing well at home. They're riding the wave of momentum. Matt Patricia is helping with that defense. The offense is looking a little bit better. Jim Bob Cooter figured out how to call a game and is utilizing his run attack.
Can we talk about that for a quick second? I mean, we have no place to go. We have no place to go, right?
Props to him, right?
I mean, let's talk about Jim Bob Cooter and what he's doing right now. This is something that he did in the game against the Dolphins. He ran a play set. It was like a double wishbone. It was something weird. Anyways, out of this play set, to keep the defense off balance, Jim Bob Cooter was able to A, pass out of it, and B, run out of it.
Yep.
And that's what we were calling for. We needed creative play calls, and we needed creative play formations to where you keep the defense off balance. They're not sure if you're going to run. They're not sure if you're going to pass. And you leave it up to your quarterback in the game to audible either to that pass or that run. And this is what we wanted.
Genius!
I wouldn't go genius, but that's what we wanted, and we're getting a little bit of that.
I call him a genius because he recognized, look, I got Michael Roberts back, throw the ball to Michael Roberts. Hey, that's
he had
genius.
A hell of a game, dude.
Look, football is not something where on offense you have to reinvent the wheel. If you have talented people and pieces all over the field, utilize them. Golden Tate, Marvin Jones, a tight end, a draft pick that's a running back that could be emerging as a superstar in the league. Hey, you utilize them, and it makes Matthew Stafford look a lot better.
You brought up Marvin, you brought up Golden Tate, and you brought up Michael Roberts, and it got me to thinking. This goes back to Patrick Peterson. Would you trade Golden Tate for Patrick Peterson? If Patrick Peterson doesn't want to be there, right? And if Arizona's just looking to kind of free up some cap space, maybe, would you do that? I don't know if they would. I'm assuming they'd want to pick in exchange. But if you could send over next year's third-round pick and Golden Tate for this year?
See, the problem is, though, Golden Tate this year really helps your team. If you're making that push, especially the Yak King, he's a guy that can really kind of is a glue guy. And look, I know that maybe he knows that he probably is not going to be here next year, but we're still playing in 2018, and it kind of appears like the Lions are making a push maybe not only to get into the postseason, but maybe just to experience a little bit of success. Because imagine if this year's team can get to the postseason and just get a W. You're talking about riding a wave of momentum into 2019 where Bob Quinn can pretty much do anything. He could cut Marvin Jones and everyone would be like, whatever, dude, you got Kenny Galladay, and the slant and the narrative will be positive. So I think they're making a push maybe to get that playoff W, maybe even to get the division, maybe even to get a playoff game at home. So I don't think so. I think Golden Tate will finish out the year here. Just look, because you know what? They can identify somebody maybe that can fill the role via the draft or a free agency to kind of help out and things like that. So I think that he'll be here to finish out the year. I don't think they're going to trade. I don't think they're going to trade Golden Tate for Patrick Peterson.
As much as I like Golden Tate, it's going to suck to see him go. I don't think he's coming back next year.
Right.
I think he's a really good guy. I think he does a lot of things well. I also think he's a guy like Kenny Galladay learned from.
Yeah.
And has continued to learn from. I think he's one of those dudes who are beneficial to a team for multiple reasons, not just because of what he does on the field.
And remember, winning cures all. Maybe Golden Tate will take a hometown deal, stick around for one more year. If he sees a playoff win, to kind of, get in his ear and say, look, we need you at this price. Look, we'll maybe contribute in other ways to, giving you a job with the organization. Hey, look, if you just stay with us, there's a chance you could do some things. You don't always have to go for the money, especially if winning is important to you. So maybe they'll Maybe they'll prey upon some attachments that he has to the organization, and it's not 100% guaranteed that he's gone, but I think the reason is that he's going to probably earn, there's money out there that he could earn more than the Lions want to give. But if he wants to stay, and he's a team guy, and he realizes, look, if I take a little bit less and we get some W's, winning cures all. And we could see, I'm not 100% slamming the door shut on Golden Tate and the Detroit Lions. Man, good podcast, cuz. I can't wait to see your coverage. I can't wait to hear your experience next week. I'm super excited. You earned it. No doubt about it. You did the hard work. You faced everything you had to do. And so definitely you know what to do. You're going to handle your business and just be part of it. And like I said, it's easy. First go around, just observe. Watch what others are doing. And then the other thing, I'll pass along the advice I always give is act like you've been there before. You know what I mean? Don't follow what we're doing. Just do what you got to do and act like you've been there before. What we're doing is just crazy, and we're having fun with it. And it's absolutely fun. But you got a job to do, and you're going to handle your business. I can't wait. I just can't wait till next Wednesday to hear how it went down, the audio that you secured, what you did, and hell, something's on your mind, fire off a question. Nothing wrong with that. Just get in that question and don't worry about all the other nonsensical media out there. Just ask the question that we all want to know about.
That's right, man.
All right.
I'm just gonna do it. It'll be a good time, man. I'll bring back a full scouting report for you.
Exactly. For the Jock, Adam Strozinski, I am the Doc, John Macaroon. You just listened to Doc and Jock, episode 272.
Go Lions.
This was locker room talk.
Second dick.
Sorry, Detroit. Didn't quite work out.
And all I can say is Detroit Sports Podcast scores.
I hear voices in my head. They counsel me. They understand. They talk to me.